Here they go to tip off a new season in the NBA.
On the Jump's first half season special, the most spectacular plays from LeBron, Giannis, Steph, Luka, and many more.
Oh my! Look out below! Put that on a poster.
And the not so spectacular plays.
Oh, that should be goaltending.
We'll also give out our mid-season awards, and the one and only Tracy Morgan joins the Jump. Find out what he has to say about the Knicks and, well, only the Knicks.
When the next season is over, my basketball season is over.
Welcome to the Jump's first half recap special. I am Rachel Nichols alongside NBA champion Richard Jefferson. Also, NBA champion and former finals MVP Paul Pierce. Gentlemen, the NBA is heading into the All-Star break this weekend, and due to the unique scheduling this year, we are right at the halfway mark of the regular season. So coming up later, Richard and Paul are going to give out their mid-season awards for MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. You want to stick around for that. But first, I want to take your pulse, guys, on where we stand in each conference, starting out west. So, Richard, throw the actual regular standings out. We're not talking about who is ranked on this particular day at this particular moment in 1, 2, or 3. For you, for your rankings, how would you rank the Western Conference with what you've seen in the first half of the season?
I think the top 4 teams, regardless of record, are Lakers, Clippers, Denver, and Utah. Those are.
Is that in order?
I would say if you ask me what teams I thought could make it to the finals, I would say Lakers, Clippers, Utah, then Denver. So, Jokic is having an MVP season. I don't know. That's a great picture. Shows my head nice and shiny.
Very
and then I think Utah has just been the best team all year long. But you got to respect the Lakers and the Clippers for some reason, including myself. We just keep adding them in there.
All right, not a bad list, but I agree with you on the Lakers.
Okay.
Clippers, I think they're head and shoulders. But I got to throw the Phoenix Suns in there.
Okay.
They've been underrated. Of course, Utah has the best record, but watch out for the Phoenix Suns, I'm telling you. The way they ended the bubble to where they are now, I mean, they have to be a threat.
Yeah,
the leadership of Chris Paul, they got a closer in Booker, and they have an outstanding young group of guys around, great coaching staff. So just watch out for Phoenix when come playoff time.
Why are you still sold on the Clippers? What makes you think that they're going to do better than they did last year?
Well, I mean, you got to give some credit to Kawhi Leonard being on your squad when he goes to Toronto and brings a championship there. With the addition of Paul George and the year he's having, you got championship caliber coaching and Ty Lue. The veterans around them, I think they've learned from their past failures of last year, and I think they're going to grow from it. There's no way, if the Clippers were in the Staples Center last year, they blew a 3-1 lead either.
I do agree with you, 100%.
I agree, but unfortunately,
No, you don't.
No, I do agree, but unfortunately, we're in a position, we got to talk about what happened, not the ifs and the maybes, unfortunately, I think the Clippers are still in a prove me mode. Prove to people. And I think Milwaukee's in the same boat. You have a couple of shortcomings in the postseason. It's like, dude, we can say how great your numbers are, what your record is, but if you don't do it in the postseason, Paul, like you made a career off of having good seasons, but being a monster in the postseason. That's where you get your real reputation.
Absolutely.
And I know we keep talking about Kawhi and what he did with Toronto and what he did with San Antonio, but what he did with San Antonio, he had Hall of Famers around him.
Yeah.
Great time in Toronto, but now this is an opportunity for him kind of to pave his own way as a leader. So
Absolutely.
I think the Clippers still have a lot to prove.
The Jazz, by the way, not in the preseason predictions of everyone to be at the top of the conference, but look, they've proven it. They're showing it on the court. You can't be anything but impressed, right, Paul, with what this team is doing?
Well, absolutely. I mean, shout out to Quinn Snyder.
Yeah.
I thought he should have been coach of the year. For the cards he's been dealt, and not that he hasn't been dealt some good players, but they don't have that just outright superstar that you're saying, like, look, this guy's a generational player. Donovan Mitchell's been great. Rudy Gobert, he's been great. But then the rest of these guys, they're just glorified role players. I mean, Mike Conley, he's probably the best non-All-Star ever in the history of the league.
Right, at this point.
Yeah, at this point in time, yeah.
Can someone please get Mike Conley like a seat at the All-Star bench? Something? I mean, come on.
Can he be a captain and just let him pick the players or something? No.
I'm sure
I
LeBron would be happy to have some backup there.
I think the one thing that people are not using against Utah, but not that it's their fault, is that they haven't had any injuries. They haven't dealt with any real COVID stuff. So when you start to look at, not at all, but not nearly as much as some of the other teams. Like you look at Portland, ton of injuries, dealing with different stuff. And Dame Lillard, that's part of the reason why he's in the MVP conversation, is because he's kept them relevant in the top 5 for the most part over the course of the season. But I think Utah's been playing amazing.
Utah doesn't get respect, and I'll tell you why. It's the uniforms. It's the color pattern.
Oh, come on.
I'm telling you, they need, once they get new uniforms that, a little more sexy to them. I mean, I don't know.
Isn't one of their, I can't keep track because every team has 6 uniforms right now, but isn't one of them a throwback to the Stockton and Malone unis, right?
Yeah, I
didn't say that. Utah fans, I have no issue with your color patterns. I just want to say
they'll get more recognition if they have better uniforms.
Direct your mentions to Paul Pierce. He's at Paul Pierce on Twitter or Instagram. I'm going to say enough stuff to piss you guys off. That one wasn't me.
Out of that. And look, I will say this about Utah too. Sure, they didn't deal with that kind of stuff in the first half of the season, but we don't. The second half of the season, hopefully things are only getting better in terms of COVID, in terms of herd immunity and people getting vaccinated and all of that as we go through the next few months. And by the way, they have already played the toughest part of their schedule.
That's what's the most impressive.
Is the thing you have to look at when you're projecting out what's happening.
Antibodies because it started in Utah.
Well,
I'm trying to tell you.
All right, let's head out
here
east
we go.
now, where we saw the emergence of both the Sixers and the Nets in the first half. Paul, how many teams have a legitimate shot of winning the East, and how do you rank them?
It's the Nets, and the Nets. I'm telling you, I mean, look at what they've done.
We gotta fix the graphics.
I said 7,600 bucks, but when I look at them, they haven't had Durant, they haven't had Kyrie. Harden's been the one constant they have since he's made the trade.
Right.
And that's why I haven't been in the MVP conversation. But can you imagine when they get all 3 healthy and get some games under their belt? I believe they've only played like 7 games together.
Yes.
I mean, come on. And they're still winning games. They're a half game out of first place without all 3 of them only playing 7 games.
Well, and you talked about Utah playing the most difficult part of their schedule, right? Utah has had one of the hardest strength of schedules up until this point.
Yep.
But the thing about the Brooklyn Nets is that their record versus teams over 500 is monstrous. It's like 12-2 or something absurd. And so I still think the Nets are the team to beat. I think the 76ers, and then obviously I do believe the Bucks are a team that if they were to make it to the final, nobody's going to be sitting up here on this panel being like, how did that happen?
Right.
It's like, hey, they made some shots, they did some things.
I will say how did that happen. I will be saying how did that happen.
A lot of different variations can happen, but it's really the Brooklyn Nets to lose. And I won't quite give them the championship to lose, but it's their conference to lose. And so the Brooklyn Nets are the team to beat, not surprisingly, when you have 3 players of that caliber on the roster.
Now, I want to note that you guys picked 4 teams in the West, but only 3 teams in the East. And that's because the Eastern Conference, friends, there's a lot of parity. That's the nice way to say that. After the top 3 teams, the Eastern Conference has been where mediocrity lives, as Zach Lowe tried to coin a new slogan yesterday. I don't think the NBA is adopting that. Just 4 of the 15 teams are above 500 entering Wednesday, which is on pace to be tied for the lowest percentage of over 500 East teams entering the All-Star break since the merger, people, in 1977. That is a long time ago. Richard, how many teams do you expect to finish above 500 this season in the East?
I'm going to say 5. I'm going to say 5. Like, understand that this is
optimist.
Well, this is not a normal year, and I'm an Eastern Conference guy for the most part. I played the majority of my career there. Paul, same way. Is that, look, understand this. Toronto, one of the historically best teams, is playing in Tampa, right? Like, there's a lot of different things going on in the Eastern Conference. It's just making this a little bit more difficult. I think the teams are better than their record is. Like, we sat up here and asked if it was like panic time for Boston because they were in the 7th spot. 2 days later, they're in the 4th spot and they're above 500. So
well, there was like a 7-way tie for 4th at one point statistically in the last 24 hours. So I
just
think that there's going to be 5 teams at the end of the day that'll start separating themselves as you get down the stretch.
And this is why I say, to crown a true champion, you take listen, Boston is in the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. You know what seed they will be if they were
1 through 16?
1 through 16? They'll be out the playoff. They'll be out the playoffs in the Western Conference right now.
Don't start that conversation, Paul. Don't start that 1 through 16.
That's why if you want to be the best in the world, you got to put the best 16 teams in the playoffs.
Paul.
Who's not going to vote for that?
Paul,
I understand that. I do understand
who want
that.
their playoff checks.
See, this is what happens when it rains in LA. Everyone starts with this like the crazy stuff and 1 through 16.
You're going to have 2 teams in the East.
Rachel's going to start talking about MVP and offensive player, and the MVP is not the best player in the world.
Now that you mentioned it, no, just kidding. No. Look, this is, and I'll just say it again because people maybe don't know, this is not like a commissioner's decision.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
owners would have to vote. I believe
Ain't
it's
happening.
like a 2/3 or a 3/4 majority, which means you'd have to have a chunk of Eastern Conference owners basically voting themselves out of the playoffs. And it's not just in terms of, their fans wouldn't have as much fun or their players wouldn't get the experience. There is playoff money on the line. And conference champs have been dealt a difficult hand with injuries and coronavirus. But even then, not quite look what we expected. Take a look at the standings. They currently sit in 7th place. Of course, they're only a game out of 4th, as we discussed in the previous segment. Everyone's tied in the Eastern Conference virtually. So, Richard, let's start with you. Panic or patience? And I do want to just say this. Part of the panic would be we got to make a move at the trade deadline. Not panic, we're going to throw out the roster.
No, I think this is patience for the Miami Heat. They've always been a patient organization, so nothing is going to change at this point in time. I know it's beautiful music. Thank you. I need to get that when I'm walking around. But the reason why I think is I think that they weathered the storm. Yeah, they weathered the storm. Not having a guy like Jay Crowder, not having guys like that in your locker room. You see the impact that he had in Phoenix. They needed extra bodies. They didn't have them. But look, with Butler, they're great. Without Butler, they struggle.
Another Jimmy Butler?
There's only one Jimmy Butler, so I think it's patience.
Yeah, their roster, they're young. I mean, like 90% of their rosters on their rookie deal probably still. I mean, they have time. I mean, I think you have to coincide it with Jimmy Butler's age, and you got to figure Jimmy Butler has a lot of years left in the tank. When healthy, he's one of the best in the league. And, these other guys, they're young, they're getting better. Bam, he's become an all-star in this league. You got to expect him to get back to the All-Star game eventually. Maybe he's one of the snubs this year.
Yeah.
And so it's nothing but patience here in Miami. They were ahead of the curve last year. Nobody saw them getting to the finals. And so
except for Jimmy Butler.
Except for Jimmy Butler. I mean, absolutely. So it's a lot of patience that they need down there in Miami.
All right, I'm kind of going to mess up producer Danny's game a little bit. Can I say ponder?
No,
the middle between
that's not one of them.
And panic?
That's not one of them.
Only
No,
this.
not listening.
I would ponder a trade for Victor Oladipo since it seems he is going to be available. I would just think about it and see what the price is. Otherwise, maybe you try to sign him
Tyler
this offseason.
Hero.
Patience,
It's going to be Duncan Robinson.
Ponder.
Nope.
Next up, the Tampa Bay Raptors. Although maybe the championship shine will wear off on them. Everyone's a champion in Tampa. This team started 2-8, but they're slowly climbing their way back to 500. We all know this is a good team. They just haven't quite looked like the Raptors we've expected. So here's another look at the standings. They're 17-17, a very claustrophobic 4 through 10 in the East. Paul, you've watched a lot of Toronto this year. Are you panic or patience?
This is a panic for me.
Yeah.
This is a panic into patience because I think you have to find a way to get some value for Kyle Lowry. As they're getting older, this team is not a championship team as built. And so if you could try to get some value
He's on an
for
expiring
Kyle
contract.
Lowry, and that's what I'm saying. You make a trade and do Kyle Lowry adjust and get him on a team where he could probably try to win another championship. But then it turns into patience because you get some young assets to build around Siakam and Van Vliet and move forward with this franchise to build their way back into a championship contender.
I'm going to say panic also. I think, no one questions what Masai is planning. He's planning something. But I think right now you talk about windows, and we're going to mention that a bunch. I think the window for this team currently constructed to contend for a conference finals is gone.
Okay.
So it's kind of like sell high.
Right.
If we can get some picks for this. I'm not like, you have great pieces still. There is no window for Van Vliet. There is no window for Siakam.
Yeah.
But there is a window to get value from Kyle. And so
Yeah.
I think you do that. You start not rebuilding, but reloading. Right, but right now you got to give up some assets before you move forward.
Well, look, and Masai, as we've seen, is a pragmatist, right? I mean, we know what happened with DeMar DeRozan, and when he sees something that's going to improve his team, he goes for it. I will say this: if you look at the teams around the league who are positioned to maybe get Kyle Lowry to make that offer, you know who maybe the best positioned team is with the assets?
Who?
The Philadelphia 76ers, friends. Do you know where Kyle Lowry is from?
Philly.
Philadelphia.
Well, Nova
All
boy.
right. Next, everyone's favorite bubble team, the Denver Nuggets. Despite an MVP caliber season from Jokic so far, they just have not looked again like the team that we thought was ready to take the next step. So here's where they stack up in the West, 20-15. They are 7th in the West right now. What do you think? Panic? Patience, Paul? I mean, they lost, what do you think?
This is a panic button for me. I mean, you talk about a team that was in the conference finals a year ago, and now you have Joker playing at an all-time high level at the center, something we haven't seen in many, many years. You got to be able to keep this guy happy moving forward, because as you start wasting years like this that Joker's having, and the only reason he won't get MVP this year is because their team is not going to be in the top 4 of the conference. And so if there's a move out there you can make to vault this team back into the top 4, I think you got to do it. And that may mean sacrificing Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray?
What? I mean,
you mean
if
Michael Porter Jr.?
Listen, if you could get a bill for Murray, would you do it? I mean, come on, it's something you have to think about, because they're not going to just. I mean, he has value, and this is not a knock on Jamal Murray, but he has value over there.
No, look, the
and
James
Michael Porter Jr., we don't know who he's going to be yet. And so, if you want something, you got to give something. If you want to take that next step, it's going to cost you.
No. Like respectfully,
would you do deal for Murray?
to the Hall of Famer next to me, this is a patience moment, right? They have been progressing every single year. I understand they had a shortened off season. They've look, Jamal got off to a slow start. He's been playing well of late. Joker's playing at a high level, but ultimately these guys are still like 25 years old. So your window for them to be great is still another 7-8 years.
Yes.
So, and Michael Porter Jr. is young. They got RJ Hampton on their bench. They, I like Zeke Naji. They have a ton of talent. So there's no, hey, when you look at the San Antonio Spurs over the Tim Duncan 20 years, there were years that they were first, there were years that they were 7th, there were years that they were 8th, there were years that they were 3rd. So it was just like, there's going to be years where you have up and down. When you have talented young players, stay pat, because they're still in the postseason. They got off to a slow start, so this is patience.
So you think that Murray can be that Robin for Joker?
100%. I think he still has room to grow. He's got room to grow.
Right?
And he just had a 50 ball with no free throws, which is the craziest stat I've still ever seen.
At this point in his career, you thought he'd be an all-star by now.
Agreed.
Yes.
You thought he'd be in an
Although the
all-star
West
game.
is
And he's a
yeah.
great player in this league.
Yeah.
But you thought at this point his development, but if you look at his stats for the last 3 years, he hasn't got that much better.
Director Kathy, can we get the patience harps one more time? Can we get those?
No, I got no
Look at
argument
that.
with you
There
there.
we go.
But
Can we
not
get
that much
the-
better. He's still a 20-point elite point guard scorer. He might just be outside the
no
All-Star
control.
group. He might just be
Just
outside the top 7. But yeah.
So
I
those are the
defend my guy,
patience harps.
Jamal.
And what about there we go, the siren. My point is that this is what is going to be played when you walk in the room.
Oh, the siren? Oh, everyone
there we
already
go.
knows.
Coming up, especially after that little detour, we're handing out our mid-season awards. Who is the first half MVP? There are a lot of great candidates. Stick around to find out what Paul is going to win at the end of the season, but who deserves recognition if the award was given out right now. It's the most awards reform. This is the only thing I have power to do. This is all I got. We begin with, of course, most valuable player. According to Caesars William Hill, LeBron James is now the current favorite, with Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic rounding out the top 3. Well, at the beginning of the season, it was Luka.
Yeah.
And again, I always want to say about betting houses, their favorite is who they think they can take the most money on. It's not a basketball analysis.
That's why Luka's card went for $4 million.
There you go. So, Paul, you tweeted out your MVP rankings earlier this week. Who is your midseason MVP?
Yeah, right now it's Joel Embiid.
Okay.
I mean, he has the top spot in the Eastern Conference. He's been dominant. The way he's transformed his game, his body, his mental. He's giving you 30 and 11. And yeah, people are going to say, well, Joker's doing this, Luka's doing that, LeBron's doing this. This guy has been flat out dominant, because before the season, I didn't see the 76ers being in this spot. Yeah, I had them at the top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. I thought they really lost a couple years when they lost on Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick. Yeah, they got Seth Curry. They got some shooting over there, but I just didn't see this team to be in the top spot in the Eastern Conference, and it's all because of this guy being as dominant as he has. He's been consistent, he's been reliable, and he has them right where they need to be in the Eastern Conference, and that's right on the top.
So I got Joel Embiid second. I really do. Joel Embiid is like, when you watch the Lakers go through that little 4-game stretch, you're like, oh, this is Embiid, and Embiid had a 50 ball, and Ben Simmons, who was out a little bit, is back. So I just, for me right now, watching what LeBron James has done early on, again, prior to that 4-game stretch, they were the #1 team. Now they've won two. Two starters, but that's what MVPs typically step up in those moments, right? And so, they struggled. As soon as they got Schroeder back, they go and blow out the Warriors. They go blow out Portland. So I still think it's LeBron.
What they do last night?
Well, look, they lost to the Phoenix Suns, but I'm going to say it's a very, very, very close race.
It is close.
It is very close.
Like LeBron, he's the best player. No, listen, LeBron is the best player in the game. He's the best player in the game, right?
Fair.
And if we're going to say that, even though you lose AD, you lose Schroeder, you find a way to keep your teams afloat.
Yeah.
Now he's a little older. He hasn't done that. I think their record is more like 6-4 or 7-5 since AD's been out, and so he took a step back for the last couple of weeks. So when AD comes back and they start winning, he'll be back there. But Joel Embiid is there for me, and even Harden. I have to put Harden in there. I mean, no KD. Kyrie's been. You don't know when he's going to show up. What type of mood he's going to be in that day.
Kyrie has played very well.
He's played very well. Nothing against his game, but you just know you don't know when he's going to be in and out the lineup. And like I said, they've been 7 games together, and Harden is reliable, and you know what other ability? He's available.
And the things that
you have to put him in there too.
The things that James Harden has done since the moment he showed up with the Nets have been historic. Right, it was like it's been over the top. He's already second all time in triple doubles. I think it's really, really close.
It's close.
It's very, very close. No one knows.
It's going to change week in and week out for me, just so you guys know. Well, next week it could be LeBron, Harden, Embiid, but right now it's Embiid.
Well, let's move on to Defensive Player of the Year. Rudy Gobert has won the award twice before. Ben Simmons has called himself the best defensive player in the league. LeBron James only second to Gobert in defensive win shares, which, Richard, I know is a stat you follow religiously.
Really closely.
Who you got? DPOY.
Me, I think Rudy Gobert. I think the Utah Jazz, having gone through the toughest part of their schedule, having dominated the league, the league, and we're not going to throw out excuses or anything. No. They have rebounding, you go through down the stats, and they are top 2 or 3 in offense and defense and 3-point shot. They're crushing, and so I think the anchor of their defense is Rudy Gobert. He's been that guy. I think the first team. I think you would go Ben Simmons is close. I think Joel Embiid gets some votes, but I think it's Rudy Gobert.
This is my thing.
Tell me your thing.
We judge the defensive win shares. To me, the defensive player of the year, you gotta pass the eye test for me. You know what I'm saying? Ben Simmons, I haven't watched him enough to say he's a great defender, but when I see the eye test, I'm not seeing those guys.
He's a great defender.
He's a great defender, but the defenders in my era, when you see the Gary Paytons picking up full court, up in you, I'm on you. I'm like Tony Allen. When we see guys like that, just no breathing room. I don't see that from the perimeter guys these days. And so when I say defensive player of the year, from a perimeter guy, I like to see those type of intangibles, the steals, the not giving any guy any room. So for me, it's Rudy Gobert because he clogs up the lane and it's tough to score over him. For a perimeter guy, I just don't see that today. Like a Pat Beverly, he's not giving you no space.
I'll say this and we'll move on.
And the stats may say otherwise.
Ben Simmons is very, very close to that because when we talk about positionless basketball, he gets into players 1 through 5 because he's 6'10". That's all I'm going to say.
Let's go to Rookie of the Year, and again, this is
why are we talking about Rookie of the Year? We know who it is.
Well, that's what I think. Caesars William Hill lists LaMelo Ball as the overwhelming favorite. Our producers agree. He's the overwhelming favorite, and apparently you guys agree. He's the overwhelming favorite.
Congratulations, LaMelo, on your Rookie of the Year. Who was it? Stephen A. said, you are everything that your brother was promised to be.
Oh, come on.
He said it. I didn't say it.
His dad said he was going to be the best ball anyway.
He did, yeah. Well, I agree.
I mean, come on.
Whether that's true or not,
he is next level. He is box office. He is box office. There's only probably about 10 to 12 people that you would pay to go see, that you would tune in to watch. And take hype away. LaMelo Ball is that guy, in my opinion.
Yeah,
He's one of those
I agree.
guys.
I mean, look at the path he took, though. Leaving high school. So, do more youngins take this path?
Don't do
Well,
it.
that is certainly true. Went outside the traditional, not just college, but outside the traditional high school route.
He's been playing pro ball since.
Yeah, if you got a brother that's got millions of dollars to make sure everything is catered and okay for you and all the trainers and all that other stuff.
But if I'm GM and if I'm, a high school guy or a coach or a father, I'm looking at the route because look at Luka. He's been pro since 14 and look where he is. Look at LaMelo. He went pro out of high school, went overseas and played a couple years. And so is this the new path that we're going to see younger talent
My kid
take?
is 5 years old and I've already thought about putting him in the IMG Academy. The IMG Academy, if they only take players at 7. Like, this is like Juilliard. If you can play the piano at 7, you're off. And so I'm still waiting on the application to come back to see if my 5-year-old can go.
Let's get to Coach of the Year, friends. Quinn Snyder and the Jazz have been a powerhouse. Rivers is the Sixers playing inspired. So, Paul, who are you going with as your midseason pick for Coach of the Year?
I'm a little biased here. I'm going with Doc Rivers.
That's all right. You're allowed to be biased, friend.
But he's been great. What he's done to transfer Joel Embiid. Tobias Harris has finally found life again. He could have easily been named an All-Star, and I give a lot of credit to what Doc Rivers has been doing, holding these guys accountable and implementing a system to where these guys can thrive.
I agree. Doc Rivers has been great. I think Monty Williams, same reason why Devin Booker didn't get an All-Star bid is because people are giving a ton of credit to Chris Paul. So I don't think that Monty's going to get it. So I think it's Quinn Snyder. Quinn Snyder, there's some things that they've dealt with that they haven't dealt with compared to other teams, but their strength of schedule and how they've played, their strength of schedule and how they've played, I think Quinn Snyder has done the best coach.
Hey, LeBron, what you see is the primary reason that Philly was able to build the double-digit leads once a quarter almost that you guys had to kind of dig your way out of?
It was a game of rust for them. The first quarter we put them to the free throw line way too much. I believe they had 12 free throw attempts at the end of the first quarter, something like that. And B probably may have like 8 of those. And it allowed them to get their defense set, neutralized us being able to get stops to get out on the break. So we had to do a better job of that. But I thought, listen, besides that, we held them to 21 points in the second, 26 and 26, and and gave ourselves an opportunity to win at the end, and it didn't go our way. But I loved our fight. But you got to do a better job with keeping our hands out of the cookie jar, especially with a guy like Embiid who has, hardened like magic as far as the swipe moves and things of that nature.
Up until that final run there, the shots weren't going down. That's happened a couple times on this trip. Have you seen anything different, or is it sort of make-miss in the way that you guys are getting shots and then converting from the perimeter?
I think we got some great looks. We play the same way every game. It's not like we change our approach, and our shooters kind of struggle tonight, obviously. We need, to open up the perimeter a lot more, but we got some great shots. Didn't make it.
Well, hey LeBron, that closing lineup you guys had tonight, a lot of teams, even dating back to last postseason, has struggled when you and AD are with 3 other perimeter players. Do you feel like that lineup they had tonight is a little bit of a ace in the hole that you guys have to really match up well with anybody?
Well, it's always good to know that you can go down the stretch and go to AD at the 5 and me at kind of like that point forward, and then surround us with guards and shooters. And defenders if need be. We have a lot of minutes as far as with AD at the 5 and me kind of playing the 4 on defense and playing the point on the offensive end. So it was a good lineup for us. And then also having KCP out there with AC and Dennis, it just gives us a lot of dimension, both offensively and defensively.
Dan?
All right. Sorry about that. LeBron, AD was under 20 points again tonight. What do you think of his offensive rhythm right now? And are there things that you guys can do to try to get him going a little bit more, or is this just him working his way into the season still?
You said AD?
Yeah, Anthony.
No, I thought he missed some shots that he's accustomed to making. And I think AD is in a pretty good rhythm right now, and I think every game is getting better and better for him. But it's our job to get him the ball. It's our job to get him the ball. And I thought we did a great job at times. At times we did not. So we got to be better as well with that.
Dave?
About a couple of years back, we were in Philly, and you were talking about the Sixers squad and the expectations placed upon them, and said everybody wants instant oatmeal, but it takes some time for these things to come together. How do you view them now, the number one team in the East, and they just played you guys down to the wire?
I think it's a really good team that they put together. Give a lot of credit to Ellen Brand and the things that they're doing here. Obviously Doc has always won pretty much wherever he's been, and you got him playing some really good basketball. So, we see as the season goes on, there's going to be a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference that's going to play championship basketball down the stretch. I know they believe that they're one of those teams.
Two more, Bill.
Hey, LeBron. That run that you guys had in the fourth, started with a couple of buckets from Alex, and then he has steal in there also. I'm just wondering, how have his contributions maybe evolved, or what is different about the way he's contributing to this group this year, and just how much better is he than he was a year ago?
I mean, AC is whatever we need. AC is kind of a Swiss Army knife, to be honest. If you need scissors, you need a wine opener, you need a fingernail clipper, if you need a knife, he's all of that in one. He can do it all. I mean, he just helps our ball club in so many different ways. He can bring the ball up, play the point. He can play off the ball. I mean, he's shooting, dead eye from the three this year, and he defends at a high level, and he doesn't make many mistakes. So, you always can live with that. You can live with a guy on the floor like that and just play championship basketball.
So you make him open your wine for you?
No, open my own wine. I'm going to be honest. I would not let him open my wine, and that's no disrespect to him. But when it comes to my wine, I trust myself.
Steven?
Hey, LeBron. I was just wondering, with how long you've been on the top, you've obviously had to adapt to a lot of things. I was just wondering how it is that you manage changing your game and just change in general.
You have to change with the times, I guess. You have to continue to evolve. I mean, when I came into the league, it was literally a big man's league, pretty much. And I don't mean that it's not a big man's league. Now I mean like fours and fives pretty much played in the paint. You had, big guys, and there was a lot of posting up, things of that nature. You had some flick wings and things of that nature, but it was a big body, big man game. And as the league evolves, you have to be able to evolve with it if you want to keep up with the time, keep up with the Joneses, or keep up with the Jameses in my case. So for me, never putting a cap on my ceiling. I just want to always continue to get better and do things out on the floor that's maybe hasn't been done in other people's careers, and continue to push the envelope and see how much juice I can squeeze out of the lemon. So that was pretty loud, but it's okay. So it's just always trying to, put myself, like I said, in a position to be successful, continue to work on my game, work on my mind, work on my body, and see what the cards is, how they be played. You play the hand that's dealt to you, and just go from there.
There, thank you.
Oh, that's it?
That's it, thank you.
Road games to start the season. Got away from you from you guys tonight. What were some of the reasons you saw out there?
A couple of breakdowns here and there, defensively, especially transition. When we were getting on the third quarter, we were getting control of the game, and then a couple of breakdowns, and gave them good looks that they made us pay for that. I thought we did a great job of fighting and clawing to get back into the game. Great effort. They made a good play at the end. We could have did a little better job as a team to get that stop. But you gotta congratulate the other team and move on.
You guys had been hitting a lot of threes this season. Had a tough time for the first 3.5 quarters, but then 3 in a row kind of made it close. Was it a case of a little bit too late?
No, I mean they got us back into the game, and we actually got ahead. So obviously you wish to make them all and shoot 100%, but that's not how life works.
You talk about a player like Joel Embiid, and tonight it was Tobias Harris who really kind of stood up and obviously hit the go-ahead basket. How good is this Sixers team?
They know what they're looking for. I think they all the players accepted their roles and want to excel in them. They know what they want to live by offensively, and what they want to live by defensively. So, and they're comfortable with it. Obviously, they get into the free throw line a lot, and that that controls the game in a way.
Time for Magic's tweet. That was the most exciting NBA game this season. Tobias Harris hit the game-winning shot for the Sixers and finished with 24 points. MVP candidate Embiid at 28. I wouldn't be surprised if these two teams were in the NBA Finals. It is now time for Fish's Focus. What are you focusing on tonight, Fish?
Focusing on Joel Embiid and defending him.
Yep.
The way that he plays, the way he creates contact.
Gets to the line.
Gets to the free throw.